The human sat on the edge of the bed, his chest still racing from everything that had happened in the last few hours. He had married an alien woman, something he never imagined possible when he first left Earth. The ceremony had been strange but beautiful, filled with glowing lights, chants in a language he barely understood, and the eyes of hundreds of her people watching him, as if he were some exotic creature. But now, in the silence of their private chamber, he thought the night would finally be simple. He thought he would share a quiet moment with his new wife, maybe even laugh at how different their worlds were. Instead, she turned toward him, her face serious, her eyes glowing faintly in the low light, and she spoke words that froze him in place. "I want you to help my sister," she said softly. At first, he thought she meant something harmless. Maybe her sister needed food, shelter, or protection. He smiled faintly, ready to agree, but then her expression didn't change. Instead, she leaned closer and whispered, "She must gain experience with males, and I want you to be the one to give it to her." The human blinked, certain he had heard wrong. The words ran through his mind again and again, but they still made no sense. His heart thudded harder as he stared at her. "What did you just say?" he whispered, his voice uneven. His new wife didn't flinch. Her alien features, sharp yet beautiful, showed no hesitation. She spoke again, even clearer than before. "My sister is of age, but she has no male to guide her. If she remains untouched, the clan will judge her as weak. They will take her away, sell her, or worse. You must help her before they do. You must show her what it means to be with a man." The air around him seemed heavy, pressing against his chest. He wanted to laugh, to tell her this was a sick joke, but her eyes told him it was not. They were steady, pleading, filled with a desperation that confused him even more. He stood, pacing the small chamber, trying to push the words out of his head, but they clung to him like chains. "You're asking me to, with your sister?" His voice cracked, filled with disbelief. "Yes," she whispered, lowering her gaze for the first time. "It is the only way." Anger rose in him, mixed with confusion. Was this how her people lived? Was this really a part of their culture? He had heard of alien traditions that seemed strange to humans, but this was something else entirely. He turned back to her, his fists clenched. "You can't just ask me that. She's your sister. You're my wife. Do you even understand what you're asking of me?" Her eyes lifted again, and now there was pain in them, a kind of sorrow that made his anger falter. "Do you think I don't know?" she said quietly. "Do you think this is easy for me? But I cannot let them take her. You don't know what they do to girls with no experience. She will not survive it. You are human. You are strong, kind. I trust you. That is why I ask you, not another." The human felt the floor tilt beneath him. The room seemed to spin. He tried to imagine the sister, a girl he had never even met, and the idea sent a cold shiver crawling up his spine. This wasn't what marriage was supposed to be. This wasn't love. Yet the desperation in his wife's voice clung to him like fire. For a long moment, he didn't answer. He stood still, listening to his own heartbeat echo in his ears. His wife sat silently, her hands trembling now, though she tried to hide it in the folds of her gown. The silence between them grew heavier with every second. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and unsteady. "Why me? Why not someone from your people? Why not someone she knows?" Her lips pressed together, as if she was holding back something even more terrible. After a pause, she whispered, "Because my people see women as property. They do not care if she suffers. They only care if she is used. If I give her to one of them, she will never be free again. But you are different. You see women as more. That is why I married you. That is why only you can help her." The words struck him harder than a blade. His anger shifted into something else, fear, pity, and a strange sense of duty all tangled together. His wife wasn't asking him out of lust or cruelty. She was asking because she saw no other way to save her sister, and she believed only he could do it. He wanted to shout at her, to tell her this was madness, but instead he found himself staring at her eyes, those desperate, glowing eyes that looked at him not as a husband, but as a savior. He sat back down, his chest heavy, his mind racing in circles. The night stretched on, filled with silence and questions he couldn't answer. He thought of Earth, of human customs, of the love he thought marriage would bring. But this was not Earth. This was another world, another people, and their rules were cruel. His wife had made her shocking request, and now the weight of it crushed him. He whispered to himself, barely audible, "What kind of world have I stepped into?" But deep down, he already knew. He was no longer just a husband. He was being pulled into something darker, something that would test not only his love, but his very humanity. And whether he wanted to or not, he would have to face it. The morning after the strange and heavy conversation, the human barely slept. His mind was full of his wife's words, twisting and circling, leaving him restless. He had agreed to nothing, but her eyes, those desperate eyes, kept returning to him in the darkness. When dawn broke, soft light spilling into their chamber, his wife touched his arm gently. "It's time you meet her," she said. Her voice was calm, but he could feel the tension beneath it. He followed her through the stone hallways of their home, every step feeling heavier than the last. His heart pounded as questions spun in his mind. What kind of girl was this sister? Was she truly in danger, or was this some strange alien test meant to trap him? He hated not knowing, hated walking blind into something that felt like a storm. Finally, they entered a quiet room at the far end of the house. The air smelled faintly of herbs and smoke. There, sitting on a low bench, was the sister. She looked up for only a second before lowering her gaze again. Her presence startled him, not because she was alien, but because she was so fragile. She was younger than his wife, maybe by a few years, and her figure was smaller, almost delicate. Her skin had the same faint shimmer, the mark of her species, but it was pale, as if the light had faded from her. She kept her hands tightly folded in her lap, shoulders slightly hunched, as if expecting to be struck at any moment. His wife spoke softly, almost with affection. "This is my sister." The girl's lips parted, but no words came out. She risked one more glance at him, quick and nervous, then lowered her eyes again. She didn't speak a greeting, didn't even attempt to smile. Instead, she sat still like a cornered animal, her body tense. The human's throat felt dry. He wanted to say something, anything to break the silence, but his tongue wouldn't move. All he could do was study her carefully. That's when he noticed the marks. Faint lines around her wrists, like old bruises or burns. His chest tightened. Someone had grabbed her roughly, maybe tied her, maybe worse. His stomach churned at the thought. "She is shy," his wife explained quickly, sensing his silence. "She has been treated poorly by the clan. They do not see her value." He wanted to ask, what value? Why treat her this way? But he stopped himself. The girl already looked like she would collapse if anyone raised their voice. He didn't want to scare her further. Instead, he crouched slightly, lowering himself so he wouldn't tower over her. "Hello," he said gently. His voice was soft, careful, like he was speaking to a child who had been hurt too many times. Her eyes flicked up at him again. For a moment, he saw them clearly, large, glowing faintly like his wife's, but full of fear. She quickly dropped them again, whispering something too quiet for him to hear. "What did she say?" he asked, glancing at his wife. "She said, 'She is afraid of you,'" his wife admitted softly. The words pierced him more than he expected. Afraid of him? He wasn't her enemy. He wasn't the one who hurt her. But of course she would fear him. He was a stranger, a human, and now her fate was tied to him in some way she didn't understand. He sat back slowly, trying to give her space. As the silence stretched, he kept watching her. She moved only slightly, her hands trembling as though she was fighting not to cry. She wore a simple gown, torn at the edges, and he noticed her bare feet were calloused, rough for someone her age. She had been walking barefoot on hard ground, maybe punished, maybe forced to work. Every detail painted a darker picture of her life. His wife broke the silence, her tone sharper now. "You see? This is why I asked you. She has no strength left. If the clan takes her, they will destroy her. She will be nothing." The human turned toward his wife, frustration rising in him. "And you think the answer is me? You think I can fix her just like that?" He gestured toward the trembling girl, who flinched at his sudden movement. Guilt stabbed him, and he lowered his hands at once. "Look at her," he said, softer this time. "She's scared of everything, even me." His wife's face tightened. "She will not survive without you." The words hung in the air like a sentence. He turned back to the girl, who still refused to meet his eyes. The truth began to settle deep inside him. This wasn't about tradition alone. This wasn't about some strange alien ritual. This was about a girl who had been broken, crushed by a cruel system, and now her only chance of freedom lay in his hands. He swallowed hard, feeling anger stir in his chest, not at her, not at his wife, but at the unseen clan who had done this. The people who thought they could decide the worth of someone's life. He wanted to demand answers, but he knew this wasn't the time. The sister sat there like a shadow, and pushing her would only hurt her more. Instead, he leaned forward just enough so his voice would reach her, steady and calm. "I won't hurt you," he said quietly. "Whatever happens, I won't hurt you." Her shoulders stiffened, but slowly, ever so slowly, she raised her eyes again. They locked with his for only a heartbeat, but in that instant he saw something flicker inside her. Confusion, doubt, but also the tiniest spark of hope. Then she looked away again, silent as ever. But the human felt it. Something had shifted. As he rose to his feet, his wife stepped closer, whispering, "You see her now. You understand." He didn't answer. His mind was a storm, torn between disgust at the request and pity for the girl who sat trembling in silence. He walked out of the room, his chest heavy, his thoughts burning. For the first time since arriving on this world, he felt like he understood what kind of place this really was. A world where innocence was treated like weakness, and survival was twisted into cruel bargains. And now, whether he wanted it or not, he was standing in the middle of it. The night had fallen, and silence spread through the alien house, but the human could not sleep. He lay awake, staring at the strange ceiling above him, the patterns of alien carvings glowing faintly in the dark. His wife slept beside him, her breathing steady, but his mind refused to rest. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the younger sister's face, those frightened eyes, the way she trembled, the marks on her arms. He could not forget. Something about it all felt wrong, far deeper than the strange request his wife had given him. Hours passed, and just when he thought he might drift into restless sleep, he heard it, a whisper. At first, he thought it was his imagination, but then he realized it was real. Soft voices, coming from the hall outside the chamber. He sat up, careful not to wake his wife, and moved silently toward the door. The voices were hushed, urgent, as though carrying secrets not meant for his ears. He pressed closer, and soon he realized it was his wife and her sister speaking together. "She cannot wait much longer," his wife whispered, her tone heavy with fear. "I do not want this," the younger sister answered, her voice shaking. "I don't want him. I don't want anyone. Why must you force me?" "Because if you don't, they will take you," his wife replied sharply. Then her voice softened, breaking. "Do you think I want this for you? I would rather die than give you away, but the clan will not let you live untouched. You know their rules. If a girl reaches age without a male, they treat her as worthless. They sell her, or worse, they use her until she breaks." The human's heart sank as the words struck him like stones. He felt cold all over. This wasn't just some strange custom or ritual. This was cruelty. This was slavery disguised as tradition. His wife wasn't speaking out of jealousy or lust. She was terrified. She was trying to protect her sister from a fate too dark to name. The younger sister's voice trembled again. "But why him? He is human. He doesn't belong to us. What if he hurts me?" "He won't," the wife whispered quickly, almost desperately. "He is not like the others. He is not cruel. He married me not to own me, but because he cared. That is why I chose him. That is why only he can save you." The words burned into the human's chest. Save her? That was what his wife truly wanted. Not betrayal. Not some twisted test. Salvation. She was asking him to shield her sister from the claws of her own people. He leaned back from the door, his fists clenched tightly. His breath came fast, his chest rising and falling with anger. He could hear the rest of their whispers fading, but the truth was already clear. The wife had not lied to him, not truly. She had hidden the full horror, softened it with words like experience, but the truth was far darker. If he did nothing, if he refused, the younger sister would be taken and destroyed by her own clan. His thoughts turned bitter. He had traveled across stars, believing alien life might be higher, wiser, more noble than humanity. But here, in this house, he saw the truth. Cruelty was universal. Power and greed twisted even the most beautiful people into monsters. And now, he was trapped in their world, married into their clan, and asked to make choices no human should ever face. When he finally returned to bed, his wife stirred slightly, opening her eyes. She looked at him, reading the storm in his expression. "You heard us," she whispered, her voice heavy with sorrow, not accusation. He did not answer at first, but his silence was enough. She reached for his hand, her grip firm though her fingers trembled. Now you know. This is why I begged you. I cannot fight them alone. You are the only one who can protect her. He wanted to shout, to demand why she would drag him into such darkness. But when he looked at her face, he saw no trickery, no malice. Only fear, only love for her sister. And deep inside himself, he felt something else stirring, pity for the girl, and fury toward those who would harm her. She is your blood, he finally whispered, his voice low. And you would give her to me? Not to betray her, his wife said quickly, shaking her head, but to save her. If she belongs to you, the clan cannot touch her. They will not dare challenge it. But if she belongs to no one, they will take her in the night and she will never return. You think I am cruel, but this is the only way to keep her free. Her words cut him deeply. Belonging. To her people, a woman was safe only if claimed, protected only if bound. It was slavery, even when wrapped in the colors of marriage. His chest ached with rage at the thought. How could they reduce life to such a bargain? He turned away, struggling with the weight pressing on him. His wife's voice followed, softer now, broken. You are human. You see her as more than property. That is why I trust you with her life. Please, don't let them take her. He closed his eyes, gripping the edge of the bed until his knuckles turned white. In that moment, he realized his wife was right. The girl's fate now rested in his hands. Not because he wanted it, not because he asked for it, but because the cruel rules of this alien world left no other path. If he refused, he would doom her. If he accepted, he would carry a burden he never imagined bearing. Sleep did not come that night. Only the sound of his wife's quiet sobs, the memory of the sister's trembling eyes, and the knowledge that his life was no longer his own. He had married one woman, but now the weight of two souls pressed against his heart. And deep in the shadows beyond their chamber, he knew the clan was watching, waiting, ready to strike the moment he faltered. The morning light did nothing to ease the storm inside him. The human sat at the edge of the bed, his hands gripping his knees, staring at the floor as though it might offer answers. His wife moved quietly around the room, her steps slow and heavy, as if she too felt the weight of what was coming. She finally stopped in front of him, her face pale but steady. You understand now, she said softly. You know why I asked. He lifted his eyes to her, anger and confusion twisting inside him. I understand the danger, yes, but that doesn't mean I agree with what you want. You're asking me to do something that feels wrong. To me, family doesn't work like this. A man does not take his wife's sister. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. And what happens if you refuse? Do you want to see her dragged away by the clan? Do you want her screams in your ears as they chain her? Because that is what will happen. You can call it wrong. You can hate me for asking, but there is no other way. He stood up suddenly, pacing the room. His heart was pounding like a drum, his hands restless, clenching and opening. He wanted to shout, to argue, but each word died in his throat because he couldn't deny what he had overheard. He had heard the whispers of the sisters. He had heard the fear. The danger was real. But still, how could he betray his own sense of morality? He stopped by the window, staring out at the alien world beyond. Towers of stone and glowing fire lanterns marked the clan's territory. He could see warriors walking in groups, armed, their glowing eyes sharp and cold. He remembered how they looked at him on the wedding day, like he was prey, like he didn't belong. They would crush the sister without hesitation if they saw her weakness. Behind him, his wife's voice broke the silence again. I married you because you are not like them, because you care. I would rather see her safe with you, even if it shames me, than see her broken under their hands. Her words stabbed at him, because deep down he knew they came from love, twisted though it was. She was trying to save her sister, and he was the only tool she had. Yet part of him wondered if there was another path, one they weren't seeing. Did protection have to mean what she suggested? Could he find another way to shield the girl? He turned back to her, his voice quieter now, but filled with pain. Maybe there's another way. Maybe I can stand against them. Maybe I can protect her without. He stopped, unable to even finish the thought. His wife shook her head, her tears finally falling. You don't understand. They don't listen to words. They don't respect kindness, only power. If you claim her, they will leave her alone. If you don't, they will take her by force. There is no middle path. The human sat down again, burying his face in his hands. His mind was at war. He thought of Earth, of human love, of loyalty, of promises. He thought of what it meant to be a husband, what it meant to keep faith. And then he thought of the sister, small, trembling, marked by cruelty she never deserved. He thought of her frightened eyes when she looked at him, and of the hope that flickered when he whispered he wouldn't hurt her. Could he betray himself to save her? Could he live with the guilt of doing nothing if she was taken? The room was silent except for the sound of his wife's quiet crying. For the first time since the wedding, she looked broken, her strength fading. He saw her hands tremble as she pressed them together, as though she was praying. "Please," she whispered, "don't make me watch her suffer. Don't make me lose her." Her words cut through him like a blade. He loved her. He wanted to protect her, to ease her pain. But he also wanted to protect himself from the weight of a choice that could destroy his soul. He sat frozen, torn between two impossible paths. Hours passed like that, the three of them moving around the house in silence. The sister barely appeared, keeping to her room, while the human and his wife lived in a heavy fog of unspoken words. Every time he caught a glimpse of the younger girl, he felt the storm inside him grow louder. He saw the bruises on her arms, the sadness in her walk, and the way she avoided everyone's eyes. She didn't want this, yet the world would force it on her unless he acted. That night, he couldn't eat. The food in front of him tasted like ash. His wife sat across the table, watching him carefully, waiting for an answer he could not give. The sister sat silently at the end, picking at her food with shaking hands. At last, he set his cup down and spoke, his voice hoarse. "If I do this, if I agree, it will not be like what they want. I will not treat her like property. I will not hurt her. Do you understand me?" His wife nodded quickly, relief flooding her face, though her tears did not stop. "That is why I asked you. Because I knew you would be gentle. Because I knew you would give her a choice, not chains." The sister lifted her eyes then, her gaze locking on him for a heartbeat before darting away. She said nothing, but the look was enough. There was fear still, but also curiosity. Maybe even trust, fragile as glass. The human leaned back, closing his eyes, feeling the crushing weight settle deeper on his shoulders. He had not fully agreed, not yet, but he had opened the door. His heart knew that soon, a choice would have to be made. And in that moment, he realized something even darker. The clan would not wait forever. Their eyes were always watching. Their hands were already reaching. If he did not decide soon, the choice would be stolen from him, and the girl would be gone forever. The sun dipped low, painting the alien sky in shades of red and violet. The human stood outside the house, watching the horizon, but his thoughts were heavy. He had spent the last 2 days locked in a battle inside his own heart. His wife's request, her sister's trembling silence, and the cruel law of the clan all twisted together into a storm he could not escape. Every time he thought he had found an answer, fear and guilt tore it apart. He knew time was running out, but he still could not decide which road to take. That evening, the silence shattered. A horn echoed through the streets of the settlement, deep and loud, followed by the sound of armored feet marching. The human turned sharply, his stomach tightening. From the shadows, a group of warriors emerged, their armor glowing faintly, their eyes sharp and cruel. They moved with purpose, surrounding the house like wolves around prey. His wife rushed to the doorway, her face pale. She knew before they even spoke what their arrival meant. One of the warriors, taller than the rest, stepped forward. His voice was like gravel, harsh and heavy. "We have come for the sister. It is time she is judged." The human's heart pounded. His wife stepped in front of the warrior, her hands raised. "She is not ready. Give her more time." But the warrior only sneered, his fangs glinting. "She has passed the age. The law is clear. A girl without a male is nothing. She belongs to the clan now. We will decide her fate." The younger sister appeared behind her, frozen in the doorway. Her eyes were wide, her body stiff, as if her worst nightmare had finally come true. She tried to shrink back, but the warrior's eyes locked on her, hungry, cold. The human felt anger explode inside him. He stepped forward, standing beside his wife. "She is not yours," he said firmly. His voice shook, but his stance did not. The tall warrior turned his head slowly, studying him with disdain. You speak, human? His lips curled in mockery. You think your words matter here? You are nothing. You are a pet taken by one of our women. Do not pretend to be more. The insult cut deep, but the human didn't back down. He clenched his fists, his jaw tight. She is under my protection, he declared, his voice louder this time. The warriors laughed, cruel and sharp. The tall one stepped closer until he towered over the human, his glowing eyes burning into him. Your protection means nothing. You cannot fight us. You cannot stop us. Do you think your fragile body can stand against the clan? The human felt fear crawl up his spine, but he refused to move. Behind him, he heard his wife whisper desperately, "Please don't provoke them." But he couldn't stay silent. If he did, the sister would be gone, dragged away to a life of torment. He had promised her, whispered in her ear, that he would never hurt her. If he let them take her now, that promise would mean nothing. The tall warrior reached out, his clawed hand gesturing for the sister to come forward. She shrank back, shaking her head, her lips trembling but no words escaping. The human stepped directly in the way, blocking her with his body. His heart hammered like a drum, but his voice was steady when he spoke again. If you want her, you will have to take her over me. The laughter stopped. The night grew heavier, the air tense. The warriors exchanged looks, their amusement fading into something else. Annoyance, maybe even disbelief. The tall warrior's eyes narrowed, his voice colder now. You would die for her? The human didn't answer right away. He thought of the sister's frightened eyes, of his wife's desperate pleas, of the cruelty in these warriors' voices. He thought of Earth, where a man could protect his family without question. Finally, he raised his chin and answered, "If I must." For a long moment, silence hung between them. Then the warrior stepped back, his lips curling into a bitter smile. You are bold, human. But boldness without strength is nothing. Tomorrow, the council will hear of this. If you claim her, you must prove you're right. If you fail. He let the words hang, his eyes glinting with menace. Then she belongs to us. With that, the warriors turned and marched away, their armor clattering in the darkness. The echo of their steps faded, but the tension they left behind filled the house like poison. The human turned to see his wife collapse to her knees, her hands shaking. The younger sister was pressed against the wall, tears streaming silently down her face. He rushed to them, kneeling beside them both. They will not stop, his wife whispered, her voice broken. They will come again, stronger, until one of us breaks. The human placed a hand on her shoulder, his other hand gently on the sister's arm. Then I won't break, he said firmly, though inside he felt the weight of what tomorrow might bring. The sister looked at him through her tears, her lips parting as if to speak, but no sound came. She only nodded faintly, as though holding on to the thin thread of hope his words gave her. That night, none of them slept. The human sat awake, staring into the dark, knowing the choice was slipping from his hands. The clan had forced his decision. He could no longer delay, no longer hide from it. Either he would claim the sister before the council, or she would be torn away forever. And as the hours passed, his heart hardened. Fear still gnawed at him, but anger burned brighter. These warriors thought he was weak. They thought humanity was fragile. They thought they could steal lives without consequence. Tomorrow, he would show them they were wrong. The council hall was vast and cold, its walls carved from black stone that seemed to swallow the light. Torches burned along the edges, throwing long shadows across the floor. The human stood at the center, his heart pounding but his back straight. Around him, rows of alien elders sat in high seats, their glowing eyes fixed on him with curiosity and contempt. Behind him stood his wife and her sister, silent, watching with fear. And at the front, the tall warrior who had threatened them the night before stood proudly, waiting for the moment to crush him. The eldest of the council raised a hand, and the hall grew silent. His voice was deep and echoing. Human, you claim the younger sister is yours to protect, yet you are not of our people. By what right do you stand here? The human swallowed hard, his throat dry, but he forced his voice steady. By the right of marriage, I took one of your daughters as my wife. Her sister is now my family, and I will not let you take her. Murmurs rippled through the chamber, some angry, some amused. The eldest narrowed his eyes. Words are easy. Our law is clear. Only the strong may protect. If you claim her, You must prove yourself. You must fight for her. The tall warrior stepped forward, grinning cruelly. And I will be his challenger. His voice dripped with confidence, and the crowd murmured with approval. The human felt his stomach twist. He had fought before in his life, but never against something like this. An alien nearly twice his size, armored, trained since birth to kill. He glanced back at the younger sister. She stood trembling, her hands pressed together, her eyes wide with fear. Then he looked at his wife. Her face was pale, her lips tight, but her eyes begged him to stand strong. He clenched his fists and nodded. I will fight. The council roared with excitement, banging their staffs against the stone floor. The circle was cleared, and the warriors dragged weapons forward. Long blades, curved and glowing faintly with strange energy, were laid at the center. The human stepped forward, but instead of taking one, he pushed them aside. I fight with these, he said, raising his fists. Laughter exploded in the hall. The tall warrior sneered, picking up a blade and swinging it effortlessly. Then you will die quickly. The fight began. The warrior lunged, his blade flashing, but the human ducked and rolled aside, the tip of the weapon sparking against stone. The crowd cheered at the display, expecting the human to be cut down at once. But he moved faster than they imagined, his smaller body slipping past the warrior's heavy swings. He struck once, a quick punch to the warrior's ribs, but it was like hitting iron. Pain shot up his arm, but he didn't stop. The warrior laughed, slashing again. The blade nicked the human's shoulder, drawing blood. The sight of it made the crowd roar louder, their voices like thunder. But the human gritted his teeth, ignoring the pain. He had faced worse on Earth, he told himself. He had fought for survival before, and he would do it again. He remembered his training. Keep moving. Don't let the bigger man trap you. He darted around, striking quick blows at the warrior's side, his legs, his face. The alien growled in frustration as each hit landed, not powerful, but steady, chipping away at his pride. Then, in a reckless swing, the warrior's blade stuck for a heartbeat in a crack of stone. The human saw his chance. He surged forward, ramming his shoulder into the warrior's chest, knocking him back. The blade clattered to the ground. Gasps filled the hall. The warrior roared, charging with his bare hands now, fury blazing in his eyes. He swung like a hammer, but the human ducked low, driving his fist into the alien's throat. The warrior staggered, choking, his glowing eyes wide with shock. And before he could recover, the human leapt, wrapping his arms around the warrior's neck, pulling with every ounce of strength. The hall erupted in chaos as the two struggled, the warrior thrashing, the human clinging like iron. With one final heave, the human slammed the warrior down, driving his knee into the alien's chest. The crowd fell silent, stunned, as the human held him pinned, blood dripping from his shoulder, but fire blazing in his eyes. Breathing hard, the human shouted so all could hear. She is under my protection. If you want her, you will have to kill me, and even then, I will fight you from the grave. For a long, heavy moment, no one moved. The tall warrior lay gasping beneath him, too humiliated to rise. At last, the eldest of the council stood, raising his staff. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the hall. Enough. The law is clear. He has proven his strength. The sister belongs to him now. None may take her. The human released the warrior and staggered back, his body aching, his chest heaving with every breath. Behind him, his wife rushed forward, helping him stand. The younger sister stood frozen, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. She had been saved, not by alien law, not by clan strength, but by a fragile human who refused to bow. The council dismissed them, but whispers filled the hall. Some muttered of shame, others of curiosity. The human had done the unthinkable. He had beaten one of their warriors, not with weapons, but with will. Back at the house, his wife cleaned his wounds in silence, her hands gentle, her eyes shining with pride. At last, she whispered, "You did more than I asked. You gave her freedom. No one else would have done that." The younger sister stepped closer, hesitant, her lips trembling as she spoke for the first time in his presence. "You fought for me, when even my own people would not." Her voice broke, but she pressed her hands to her heart, bowing her head. The human met her eyes, his own voice low and steady. "I promised I would not let them hurt you. That promise will never break." The night was quiet after that, but the human knew it was not over. The clan would not forget the shame he had caused them. He had won one battle, but more storms were coming. Still, for the first time, he felt no doubt. He had shown them what it meant to be human, and he would keep showing them, no matter the cost. The days after the council fight felt different. The house was quieter, yet not peaceful. The human could sense the clan's eyes everywhere. Whenever he walked through the settlement, whispers followed him. Some looked at him with disgust, others with curiosity, but none with respect. To them, he was still only a human, weak and out of place, but now he was also dangerous because he had humiliated one of their warriors. At home, his wife cared for his wounds with gentle hands. She barely spoke, but her silence was filled with warmth. He could see the pride in her eyes, even when she tried to hide it. Each time she wrapped new bandages, she whispered softly, "You saved her. You saved us." The younger sister, though, was different. She avoided him at first, keeping her distance. But when she passed him in the hallway, he noticed something new in her eyes. The fear was still there, but softer now, replaced by a flicker of something else, trust. It was fragile, like a candle flame in the wind, but it was there. One night, as the firelight glowed inside the room, the sister sat alone, staring at the floor. The human walked in quietly, not wanting to startle her. She looked up, startled anyway, her hands gripping her gown tightly. He raised his palm slowly. "I'm not here to scare you," he said gently. "I just wanted to check on you." She hesitated, then whispered, "Why did you fight for me?" The human paused, thinking carefully. "Because no one else would. Because you didn't deserve what they planned for you. Because family means protecting each other, not selling each other." Her eyes filled with tears and her voice shook. "But I am not your family. I am just a burden." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You are her sister. That makes you mine too. Burden or not, I won't let anyone hurt you." She turned her face away, but he saw her shoulders trembling. For the first time, she believed him. For the first time, she knew there was someone in this world who would not treat her like property. The next morning, the clan's anger arrived again. A group of warriors stood outside the house, watching but not entering. They said nothing, but their eyes carried threats. The human understood their silence. He had won the council fight, but victory did not erase shame. They would wait, watching for his weakness, waiting for the moment to strike again. Inside, his wife spoke in whispers, her worry growing each day. "They will not forgive. They will look for a reason, any reason, to punish us." The human knew she was right. He had won one battle, but the war had just begun. He would have to be strong not just with his fists, but with his heart. The clan expected him to fail. They thought fear would break him, but he would not bend. One evening, while he repaired the broken wood along the house wall, the younger sister approached him quietly. She held a small bowl of water, her hands shaking as she offered it. "For your wounds?" she whispered. He accepted it, surprised, and sat while she dipped a cloth into the water. Her hands were uncertain, trembling as she pressed the damp cloth to his arm. He noticed her avoiding his eyes, but her touch was gentle. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely audible. "No one has ever fought for me before, not even my own father." The human felt anger stir again at her words, but he kept his tone calm. "Then remember this. You are worth fighting for. Don't ever believe otherwise." For the first time, she looked directly at him. Her lips parted, as if to speak, but instead she lowered her gaze again. Still, he saw it in her eyes. Something was changing inside her. That night, when he lay beside his wife, she whispered into the darkness, "She is healing. Not because of me, because of you." The human turned his head toward her. "Because I showed her kindness, something your clan forgot long ago." His wife nodded faintly. "You are human. That is why you are different. That is why I chose you." The words lingered in his mind. He realized then that his fight was never only about the sister. It was about showing this world what humanity meant: compassion, loyalty, and the strength to protect the weak. These were not weaknesses, as the clan believed. They were power, a power stronger than their blades. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, the sister began to speak more, her voice gaining strength. She laughed once, softly, when the human made a small joke while fixing the roof. It was a sound so light and rare that both he and his wife froze, staring in surprise. The girl blushed and covered her mouth, but her eyes shone with a new light. Yet danger was never far. The clan grew restless, their patience thinning. Rumors spread that they would test him again, this time with something far worse than a single duel. But the human no longer feared them. He had already chosen his path. One evening, as the firelight warmed the room, the younger sister stepped forward and spoke with a voice that no longer trembled. "They will come again. They will try to take me. But if they do, I will not hide anymore. Because now I know I am not alone." The human looked at her, pride filling his chest. His wife touched his arm, her eyes glowing with both love and gratitude. In that moment, the three of them were bound not by alien laws or clan traditions, but by something stronger: choice, trust, and family. The house that once felt heavy with fear now carried something new. It was fragile, yes, but real. Hope. The human knew the battles ahead would be harder. The clan would not forgive the shame he had caused. But he also knew something else. He had already won the most important fight. He had taken two broken sisters and given them what no one else ever had: the promise of safety, the promise of worth. And as the fire burned low, the younger sister whispered the words that sealed it all. "You gave me freedom, not chains. That is better than anything they could have forced on me." The human closed his eyes, his heart heavy but steady. He had come into this world as an outsider, a weak creature in their eyes. But now he was something more. He was a shield. He was a husband. He was a protector. And no clan, no council, no warrior would ever take that away from him.